Da-da-da-da-da. It is better. Friday ThoughtFLOW. I'm going to give it a couple of seconds to populate. I'm not exactly sure if I have sound. So if you're just rolling in, tell me if I have sound. Here she comes, my partner in parlance. Uh-oh. Hi, Barb. Hey, Nicky. What's going on, love?
Life, whatnots.
Oh, yes. Indeed, I get it.
Yeah, I just came back from a mammogram and ultrasound.
I mean, nothing says whoop whoop to the weekend like a mammogram. I'm living large over here, right? Mash those boobs.
I mean, seriously, random billionaires are building penis rockets and going into outer space. But we can't figure out, just a different way to do that.
We cannot. We've got to put the boobs in a panini press in order to make it. I mean, it makes no sense to me.
It's so archaic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you can take a colon, like I feel like there's all these medical tests right now that you can just have delivered to your home, and you can test your blood sugar, and you can check your poop and take a sample and mail it off to somebody's lab and
Somebody's lab. That guy's lab.
those are a little suspect to me. I'm like,
no.
Is that the minimum wage job to check those samples in? Or
I mean, I think it's a fair question. But seriously, like, we know that ultrasounds, if they find something a little bit suspicious, but they're not sure of what level of suspiciousness it is, what do? They do an ultrasound.
Turn this out.
So if that's the case, then why are we smashing boobs? Why? Someone's gonna have to explain this to me.
And the ultrasound is, this cute little wand, and they just,
It's a little chilly. The goo is chilly.
Oh, mine is in a goo warmer.
Which is fine. If they did that on your boobs, you would say thank you. Whereas when they put it in the squisher, the only reason why there have been no felonies is because you can't reach the woman because she's so far away. And I will tell you from personal experience, you think it's bad. You actually have boobs.
I was actually thinking about that. I was actually thinking about the manipulation of tissue when there isn't a lot of tissue.
Mm-hmm. So this is my face on the thing. And it's literally on here like this. I literally could not talk. I was like this. And the woman said, if you could just lean in a little bit more. As she's pulling my poor nipple, she's pulling on it like it's taffy. And her eyes are squinting because she's pulling so hard. And my face is on the thing and I can't get her. And I said, if you don't take this damn picture and get off of me, we're going to have a problem.
And then, of course, I always have the tech, and my tech today was awesome. She was wonderful. We were chatting it up. You know, what do you do when your boob's out and you're being smashed? But they're always really short. And yeah.
I've never had a short tech. I always get the East German tech. Ludmilla.
So my short tech on her tippy toes, you know, in her little elf-like feet, because I was just like looking at her shoes at one point, and then she had me take my glasses off, which I didn't understand why, because I've never taken my glasses off. And for those of you who are just joining this conversation, I think I talked about, I don't know, but I'm high risk for breast cancer. And so I get to go and just be magnetized all the time now because I have MRIs for my MS once a year, and now I have this high risk breast cancer thing. And so I get to, you know, get my boobs smashed. I did get the warm ultrasound gel, and then I have to go next week for an MRI. And, you know, they ask you all of these questions. And what was one of my MRI questions is, do you have any tattoos? And I'm like, yes, I do. And they're like, how many? And I'm like, a lot. And they're literally just like, do you have it? I'm like, no, I don't. I'm like, I can't tell you. I'm like, there's a huge tree down my back, and there's a flock of birds going down my arm, and then there's other random, well, do you have tattoos, you know, by the breast tissue? I'm like, I do. I'm like, I have 3 blackbirds right underneath. And they're just like, oh, so we'll just put several tattoos. Okay, that's great. I'm like,
I mean, a lot is typically means more than 2 or 3 or even more than several.
You know, not my, you know, because they ask you, you know, do you have a pacemaker? Do you have any piercings? And at one point I did have dermals, but they were like just above my bikini line. And so she's like, oh, well, you'll have to take those out. And I'm like, yeah, no.
No.
I'm like, it's an MRI for my head. I'm like, no.
For my head. Lady, if you end up down there, you made a terrible turn and maybe a bad career choice.
I'm like, no, I'm not taking my dermals out. So, and you're only going to see me exposed from the neck up. So you're not even going to know. So I'll just, like, oh, did you take those out? I sure did. And since this is in preschool, you're not going to check.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's
an interesting situation because I just don't feel like this is the case for prostate cancer.
And that's where I was going to go. So here's the thing. You know, you talk to a man and he's like, you know, at least you don't have to go to the doctor and have somebody squeeze your little friends down there and then cough. And I'm like,
I don't know what's going on with my lighting situation. Oh, that's better. That's better. Here, I'll switch my seat. There we go. It's like blinding.
I'm like, yeah. You know what? When you have a baby and you have to go through all of that nonsense shenanigans, then we can have a conversation. Because I'm telling you, if coughing with some guy's hand on your little business makes you sad, you could not handle being a woman.
And it's not even just having a baby, it's the whole pregnancy. I mean, you go through all of these.
Well, that's what I mean. The whole thing is like investigation discovery, pelvic edition.
And you know, that last month when you're like, am I dilated? And they're like, no.
Oh, no, that wasn't me. I was dilated early.
And then you go the next week, oh, you know, maybe 0.5 centimeter, maybe 1 centimeter. And then you go the next week and you're like, okay, am I just hanging out here? We just kibitzing. So it's like, what are we doing?
Literally just hanging out because you're not wearing pants because you can't. They take them from you.
So, which is a very fun experience. I mean, you know, having a baby because you get this cute little warbly thing at the end.
I mean, those warbly thingies are a lot of work. It's funny because it's not giving me any notification that people are showing up, but Jessica is here.
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to try to bring her up.
But yeah, the whole breast exam thing is such an interesting, it's like, yeah, a guy designed this. There's no
doubt. I mean, I'll have to look it up, but I'd be hard pressed to believe that any woman would do that to, well, I mean, maybe not. I'm going to take that back. I mean, women might do that. See, man, am I on delay here? What is going on?
You're not on a delay with me, but I do see that people are, I see people.
There
Hey,
we are.
gorgeous.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
I've just been like watching you guys talk about tattoos. I'm like, oh, tattoos.
So Jessica has expanded her tattoo collection since she was last here with us. They are
so
stunning. Do show.
Gorgeous. I love your handpiece.
Yeah, I was pretty adamant about not having a wrist that just sort of like ended at a sleeve. I wanted it to be more, I don't know, more feminine and more like have like more of that like anatomical. Yeah. Now I kind of want to do my knuckles, so I kind of want to like bring this into like something dainty, like little dots and dashes into my hand and then onto my knuckles.
Harmony says she has
several.
Yeah,
when people ask me how many tattoos I have, I just tell them I can't count anymore.
I mean,
I just don't bother.
why count? Just show them.
This is my favorite one.
Nice.
I can't see it. What is it?
It's an infinity sign on my
right
finger.
on it. I love that.
So when people, and they're just like,
yeah,
fuck you, infinity.
Oh, I didn't drop the first F-bomb. I didn't drop the first F-bomb.
I'm amazed that it wasn't me.
I mean, best behavior.
I am so jonesing for another tattoo. I am.
Oh, do it.
Oh, yeah. It's just a matter of what and where, because it's not just like, it's never just one, but there's only so much time I'm willing to sit in that chair. But yeah, I am my birds took 2 hours. And
I mean, 2 hours isn't long for a tattoo, is it?
I sit for like 3 or 4 hours each time.
When the tattoo guy looks at you, when the guy covered from here down looks at you and says, "You're still here?" It's like, "Man, girl, you got balls." And I'm like, okay, I don't know if that was I don't know if that was. No, I just.
Yeah, it was funny. I was sitting for one of the sessions on my arm, and there was this younger gentleman who came in to get his very first tattoo, and he was there for maybe, I don't know, maybe an hour, and it was just like this little traditional piece, and he got up after and he was like, "Wow, that really stings." That really stings. And I was just I'd been there before he got there, and I was still going after he left, and I was like, "Yeah, brother, feels a little stingy." Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
It is what it is. Well, Jess, I'm so glad to have you back on. You do know that you were our first guest.
I do. I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So just to have you back after almost 2 years is super exciting, but so much has happened. And so for those of you that don't know my sister here, I would love for you to introduce yourself and talk about what's been happening in Jess land.
All right. So my name is Jess. We're going with Jessica Adrienne because we're not talking about last names right now. I don't even know where to start. So last time I was here, I think I was discussing like wanting to go to law school and finishing my undergrad and being on that process of like taking my LSATs and whatnot. And so as an update on that, and also for anyone who doesn't know me, so like the quick and dirty version of that is that I'm also a recovering addict, I have 16 years clean. I decided with a record that I wanted to be a lawyer. I decided that fuck this, I don't care. I've seen other people do it. I'm going to figure out how to do this myself. And so that's what I did. So I went through the process of applying for clemency. I went through the process of finishing my undergrad. I finished very high in my class. Took my LSATs, did well. Applied for law school, got into Duquesne, and all of those processes are happening. So this just happened at the end of what was that? At the beginning of December. The Pennsylvania Board of Pardons unanimously approved my application for clemency. So I'm still waiting on the government. I know, it's a big deal.
You never told me.
I know. Oh, I thought I did tell you. It was
No.
just so quick, and there was so much happening, so that was a big deal.
Huge.
But so that was big. And what else? So I'm in law school now. So I'm like halfway through my second year, but so I'm halfway through my second year of law school. I'm also fucking super busy full-time model, which is crazy. It all sort of happened all at the same time. And I'm also going through a divorce. So all of these things oh, hello, kitty. It all happened sort of at the same time, and it was all sort of like wrapped up in this, like, who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And the modeling and the law school thing happening at the same time, it was really important, and I couldn't let go of either one. And I was told by a number of people, you probably can't do both. You probably shouldn't do both. And I basically told everyone, go fuck yourselves, I'm doing both. And that's how that went. Like, and on top of which, so I'm obviously like a heavily tattooed model, and you don't see a lot of us like on Disney or like I still don't know that I would hit the Disney market, but like, you know, it's not like a very commercial look. But this is also sort of a big deal. So I've been like a hard ass working freelance model for a long time, and last year I submitted to a couple of commercial agencies, and I went through the process, and now I'm commercially signed, listed.
I saw that.
With Pro Model and Talent. It's a regional agency, so that's a big deal. I passed on going to IMTA at the moment. I did.
Like a model cattle call convention type deal.
Yeah, and I was looking forward to doing that, but with everything that I have going on, I just moved, and I'm still kind of wrapping up this stuff with this divorce and whatnot. I just didn't feel like it was a good time, and so that kind of.
I'm
You get to
sorry.
keep the car.
Was that an homage? Wait. Was that an homage to Black China? I have to ask. Black China is complaining that she doesn't get child support, but both of the fathers, Rob Kardashian and I don't know the other, I never know those hip hop rappy guys' names, but they both basically have the kids for the whole week. One has the kid from Tuesday through Saturday, and the other has the kid from Monday through Saturday. And they pay tuition, they pay medical bills. Like, literally, the dads are like living large with these kids, and Black China's like, I had to give up 3 of my cars.
Oh, I just saw that. I just like glanced at it. I think I just saw that like today, or maybe I've been so busy. I catch pop culture crap.
You
like,
can't keep
often.
Up with Black China?
I can't look.
I mean,
that's it.
Ask me if I care. That's the better.
I'm not sure about you now. I'm not sure.
You can't keep up with Black China.
I mean, Black China can't keep up with Black China.
Look, good for you. Look, I'm with you, girl. Like, Black China, I'm with you. But I got my own shit. It is not personal. It is not a personal attack. I just got my own shit, my own divorce, my own custody shit. This really is not a dig on any pop culture individual. I just simply have my own shit to deal with.
So speaking of shit,
I want to model was fun. Oh no, I didn't get to keep the car. That was somebody else's car. He popped on here for a minute. I saw him pop on here. No, the Corvette, the C8. That was a gorgeous car. And then my other friend has the Challenger. That was a good car. I have a couple more car shoots coming up this in the next couple of months. I never get to keep the car. I do get to keep the shoes sometimes.
You should negotiate some car time. I'm just saying, people that are donating cars for modeling. Jess may need to take a little ride. She may need to stop.
I just need to drive it
I can't drive a Corvette because I can't see over the dash, but that's a different story. All right, so we have so much to unpack here because, as you notice, and as she has alluded to, but I'm just going to say it, in our society that dictates everything, whether it makes sense or not, you know, we have all of these stereotypes, right? Lawyers can't look like Jess because she's pretty. She does not wear suits that make her look square. And she's got some art on her body. But, you know, you said that people said, you know what, you can do one or the other, you can't do both. And you said, go pound salt. What I want to know is, how did those conversations go after you told them to pound salt? Because I'm sure you consulted people in the law department too about this, right?
I did. What was interesting was, so the one professor that I spoke to, I had her in a class, and I just respected the hell out of her, and I still do. She's still one of, I mean, she's like my go-to with a lot of things. And so her opinion and her perspective on the whole thing kind of guided my hand with this a little bit, because she said, if you want to fight this, I'll fight this with you. If you want to fight this, we can fight this, but I'm telling you, it's probably going to be a fight. And especially, so I'm just going to say this too. So I'm a freelance model. I do a lot of, and that includes everything. That includes artistic stuff for different photographers. That includes commercial stuff for different, especially online vendors. But you know, I also have an OnlyFans. So I started that in, I think, December. And I received like different levels of acceptance and backlash, you know, whether, and of course, some of that is from someone that would be expected to give backlash, but I'm not going to go there. And some of it wasn't. Some of it was from like women or
well, that's no surprise.
You know, it's like this internalized misogyny that like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. That's what? That's fucking what? What is it? You know, that's my question. That's what?
It might be naive. I don't understand what the conflict is.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Well,
I mean,
it goes back to this false puritanical nonsense that we live in the United States where, you know, we're all prim and we're proper and nobody breaks the rules unless you've got a penis. Oops, did I say that? So the women support that patriarchy and they say, oh yeah, no, this is terrible. You certainly can't do that. Well, what will your children think? Well, what will this? Well, the children, in my opinion, won't think anything about it if you don't demonize it.
Right. And that takes me to like, okay, so we're just skipping all over the place here. We'll go back to what, you know, how I felt with the administration. So into my position as not only a woman and not only as an attorney, but as a mother, because I have a 5-year-old girl and I have a 15-year-old boy. Obviously, the 5-year-old girl has no idea I'm just her mom. The 15-year-old boy, we've had to have lots of conversations about my, not just, and here's the thing, not just the OnlyFans, but about my modeling. When I went back into modeling full time, he went from seeing like a very docile, like all I ever wore was like sweatpants and sweatshirts and jeans, and he had no idea there was like a whole pretty person under here, you know?
Yeah.
And for a hot minute there, I felt like a little bit guilty. Like, is this bad? Should I not be doing this? And then I was like, listen, bro, you only live once. Hey, YOLO'd him. And I'm not doing this. I gave up like a whole lot of years just being your mom and like trying to do the married, docile, whatever thing. And I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. And moreover, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to feel like you are required to live less than how you want to live for any reason. I don't want you to like become a father and feel like you have to make yourself small or make yourself, dull your shine a little bit because you're a dad. I don't want you to feel like you can't chase every dream that you have because you have children. I don't think that's true. I think that's a false statement that, you know, maybe generationally we were taught. But even more so, and this is something Misty and I had discussed, was obvious. So obviously there is a sexualism. There's, you know, it's sexualized, and I would be remiss if I pretended to ignore that. But here's the hit. We grew up with parents who pretended sex didn't exist, and when they did talk about it, it was awkward as fuck. It was like, oh, we don't talk about that, you know? Or it's like, oh, whatever it was demonized, it was wrong, it was behind
covert.
closed doors.
Yeah, it was covert.
Everything was behind closed doors. It was with the lights off. It was, you know, and God forbid you have kinks. Oh, Jesus, you're the worst type of human. You know what I mean? And it made it so that if there was, I mean, and we could broaden this to like sexual preferences or orientation. I mean, I don't want to be that parent. I don't want to be that parent that my kid doesn't feel like he can come to and ask, like, hey, I'm dating this girl, and how do I handle our first date? How do I handle, I don't want to date her anymore. I want to date someone else. Okay, kid, we're going to talk about.
Question. Right. You have a 15-year-old son?
Uh-huh.
So what did you think was an appropriate age for him to begin dating?
When he was ready.
No.
Period. End of sentence.
What did you ask, or what did you see? What did you observe? Cliff notes of I'm not trying to be intrusive because it's his privacy for sure. But what did you observe in his character, his demeanor that belied his being ready?
I mean, he went from like not really having as much interest as like, I don't want to say as much interest as like some of his friends, but like he would talk about his friends and how his friends would talk about girls, and he would have like kind of this, I don't want to say he was disgusted by that, but like he wasn't interested, you know? He was just like, oh, so-and-so said this about so-and-so, and it just seemed like he just wasn't interested, you know? He wasn't like confused. I mean, he definitely obviously knew what was going on, but like early on, so he would date, like he would date, he would have like these
and he's 15, right? He's 15.
He's 15, so he went through like, you know, a couple of, he's gonna kill me because he's on my Instagram, obviously. Hi, buddy.
Hey, Kayla.
Thank you. I'm gonna say thank you because
yeah, but here's the deal. So right from like way before he was ready to date, I would try to, I mean, I'm the type of mom who like doesn't miss out on a lesson opportunity. Like, doesn't matter what it is. Like, don't open the car door. You're going to fall out of the car and die. I'm that kind of mom. Don't fall down the stairs. Your neck's going to break. You're going to die. Like, we don't pull any punches. So, you know, when he started like talking to girls, I was just like, listen, you don't have to make things serious. You can make things as serious as you want to. If you want to jump from one to the other, you're welcome to do that. You're in fucking 9th grade. You're in 10th grade. Wow, however old he was at the time. Communicate. Don't be in one relationship and tell somebody else that you're dating that, you know what I mean? Just communicate. You know, so we try to keep it like on the most base level. Like, I feel like if I'm honest with him, he'll be honest with other women. I have to be the example.
Yes.
I have to be the example of how he can maneuver and expect other women, like if he recognizes from me, this is how he can expect women to communicate with him.
Yes.
That's the bar for him. You know, so I think at some point he just turned a corner and he was like kind of dating a little bit more seriously, and like he wasn't like, oh mom, you know, and you know, he didn't come running home to tell me, but like he sends me what's happening, and I just try to be present. I just try to be present and give him what I can, but ultimately, like, so wait, I'm gonna go back. As honest as I am with him about our interactions, I've also tried to be an example. So I told you I'm going through a divorce. In my relationship, I realized I was not modeling behavior that I wanted him to see. You know, and so many people stay in marriages for the kids, you know, and I think I definitely maybe tried that for a little while. And then I realized, like, this isn't what I want him to see. This isn't who I want him to think. This isn't what I want him to think women are supposed to act like in a committed relationship, whether in a marriage or just in a committed relationship. I need him to see something different. So,
and I think that's really important. Sorry, Nikki. I think it's important because women are supposed to look a certain way. Mothers are supposed to look a certain way. We're supposed to say certain things. We're supposed to bake cookies. We're supposed to do all of these things. And then the kids go away and moms are like, you know, there's the song, all by myself, playing in the background. You're crying
right.
and you're like terrible. And then you've lost that opportunity. On top of being all alone, you've lost that opportunity. It will never be the same once they leave or do whatever, to really make that impression of what it means to treat a woman in a certain way. And so, or you know, what it is to allow a woman to be who she is. Right. And I say allow because I feel like, especially right now in society, there's this whole push-pull, and trying to change women is becoming more important than ever, or suppress and repress women. So I appreciate what you're saying there about how you parent your son, because I think that it's frowned upon a lot. And I think in a lot of cases that frowning is coming from women.
It really is. I mean, and you know, and so I'm gonna move this forward a little bit to what we were talking about with, like, sort of that self-love piece and that self-honesty piece. And you know, I can't, as a woman, there are certain lines that I have with my son. Like, I'm obviously, it's inappropriate to discuss certain things sexually with my son. He's gonna have to reach out to his dad. God, I hope that goes well. But, you know,
this is dramatic pause.
Good luck. But so one of the things that I heavily believe in, and I'm going to give a caveat for anyone who's watching this. I am not credentialed. I hope to get credentialed in some trauma work. But one of the things that I believe in, and I hope to work with others and help others with, is this ability to have like some deep self-honesty when it comes to sexuality, and when it comes to and I'm not talking about like identifying sexual orientation or what you're interested in. I'm talking about like just those gut level, what do I want? What do I want? You know, I feel like, I'm going to say it, I feel like women were never ever raised to prioritize an orgasm. You know? Like, ooh, how many people just went, you know, like, if they didn't do it verbally, like, they probably did it in their head. Like, oh, she just said orgasm. Oh, like a woman just said orgasm.
Oh, no.
And again, though, on ThoughtFLOW, they recall.
But I'm just saying, like, how often, you know, and then because we're not taught what to expect or what to want, or that it's okay to want, we don't know how to communicate that in our intimate relationships. We don't know how to feel okay. And then God forbid you layer in some sort of like trauma or sexual trauma, then, you know, we're just sort of fucking lost. And then we get into these relationships, and it's no wonder that, like, we mix up sex and love. And then we're kind of like stuck in this place where we can't explain what we want. And then we feel like we're not getting our needs met. And we're just lonely. We're in a relationship, but we're fucking lonely.
And we can't articulate those needs because we've never been taught to prioritize them.
Right.
So I had this conversation with my 15-year-old, and I, you know, just kind of on the surface, when can I start to date? And I'm like, oh, there's some girl you like. Okay, cool. And I said, so I asked him back the question, what is dating? And he just kind of looked at me, and I was like, what are your ideas of dating? And he looked at me. I said, this is not a trick question, dude. I'm like, because if you go into a relationship and you have one idea of dating, and maybe your idea is casual, laissez-faire, you like this girl, you like this girl over here, but the person you're dating doesn't feel the same way. That's not their definition of dating, or vice versa. I said, so you have to know what is acceptable for you in terms of dating. And I said, does dating include sex? And he kind of looked at me and he was like about to blush, but then he was like, ooh, where's this going? And I was like, does dating include sex? And he's like, can we have sex? And I'm like, I won't know when you have sex for the first time. I'm like, I really hope I don't know.
I was going to say, I hope
like,
it's not like.
And he's like, so can we have sex in the house? And I'm like, but he wasn't asking like, it was
wasn't asking for permission. He was asking what are the boundaries.
He's like, what are the logistics of this since you're never going to know? And I was like, no, you can't have sex in my house. And he was like, well, where would we do it? So it's now turned into like this full on logistical conversation about if I'm not going to give them permission to have sex, then when would it happen? And I was like, look, here's the deal. I was like, again, I'm never going to know, hopefully, crossing fingers, when you have sex for the first time. But bring your own condoms. So now my 14-year-old is like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you make sure you're safe. You don't hand that responsibility off to someone else.
Nope, never.
We talked about the poking the holes in the condoms. And I'm like, I don't think you guys understand just how teeny tiny sperm are. So like, we're just standing in the kitchen and my husband walks in and he's like, what the hell did I just walk in on? I'm like, I don't think you understand how teeny tiny sperm are. And they have one job. And there's billions of them who have that one job. And it is to get to that egg. And so Kyler then goes, okay, recap. I'm like, oh, we're recapping. Okay. But the whole point was, it hadn't dawned on them that there were definitions of dating. There were opinions of what it is to date. It hadn't even done. I said, so you need to know what that is before you step into the arena. And you need to know, like, I'm not going to lie to you, sex feels good. I'm like, but it's not just for you.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's for us, for the two of us. Sure. Or whatever that number is. And I said, but it's not just for you. And I said, oftentimes at your age, or like this high school age, it is a thing that is like this, it's like this privilege that boys think they can have. And they can run around like they're the spice du jour, and I said, don't be that guy. And I said, and if you are that guy, then be prepared to suffer the consequences. Oh, well, what are the consequences? So it was just
just really quick before we go on to the next subject. I'm so sorry. And this is like a total plug, which I never do. But Hooligan Leathers popped onto the call. Nicky, you've got to check out Hooligan Leathers on IG. Beautiful. Stunning.
I see. Okay.
Stunning leather work. You've got to make sure you check it out. Sorry, I digress. I mean,
for my dating and sexual escapades.
Yeah, let the kids find it on their own. You go to it yourself.
You need to define how you're gonna use that in your dating. What you were saying sort of brought something up for me though, that and of course I feel like I'm always redefining where I'm willing to go with my communication. And I feel like this sort of like, this is so good. It's tough for me, being a mom, it's tough having conversations with my son. And I'm sure that you probably, maybe both of you sometimes feel similarly. It's like, where are the boundaries? Where are the allowable boundaries? And what can I say is okay and what can I not say is okay? And especially being me and being sort of, my son uses my Instagram for clout. He sent me a message once. He was like, what's your Instagram? I was like, fuck you mean? You're on my Instagram. He's like, just say it. He's like, oh, this is for your weird and crazy friends. He's like, fuck you. So I just typed it out and he sent me like a ninja after that or so. I don't know, weird. But so the thing is, like I remember my son, when I got pregnant with my daughter, being very angry about the fact that I had sex without his permission. And he was 10. And that was when he learned about sex, was because I was pregnant with my daughter. And he was like, but wait, you weren't planning on getting pregnant. So why did you have sex?
Oh.
And at that point, I was just fed up with all of his crazy questions. I was like, because it feels good. Because it feels good, Caleb. It feels good. That's why. It feels good.
I remember you telling me that, by the way, and I remember being like, no, I don't want to hear this.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, because it feels good. That's why.
I don't like that pretending like it doesn't feel good. I don't like that.
Like it's utility only.
Yes.
Right.
I don't like that pretending like you don't get all heated when you pass that person and their pheromones are like, arr, arr.
Right. And if we don't communicate all of that, we're walking them out into the world with they're not prepared, or they're figuring this shit out on their own, or they're watching porn and getting like a completely unrealistic view of what sex is, and I don't want that. I'd rather communicate and say, listen, this is what you can expect, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, because I never had that. I had parents who I had a mom who like refused to even her only advice she had for me is those boys are going to take advantage of you, which is traditionally probably not been wrong.
Damn,
some of it was
right.
Ouch.
Some of it I have welcomed. But those boys are going to take advantage of you, and then consequently like refuse to like teach me how to put on makeup, or refuse to teach me how to like become a woman. There's this period of time probably between like 15 and 18 or 20 where our children are learning how to become this is like adult training.
Yes.
This is like the training wheels, they're like adults in training. And so, this is my statement for anyone who says, oh, you're a sexy model, or you're an OnlyFans model, or you do all of these things and they're super sexual, and you're a mom. How dare you? It's like, listen,
Shroud. Put the bag over shroud.
I am a good mom,
mom.
and I'm right. Sexy people have children.
Sexy people are good parents. And really, Jessica, it's not your fault because you didn't make yourself.
And not only that, but like one of the things that and I there's a woman that I very much hope to work with, and she does a lot of like sex and love guidance. Follow her. I'm giving a plug now. Her Instagram is Guided Awakenings, and she's brilliant and beautiful and amazing. But we talk often about like confidence and like helping people find their confidence, helping people find their voice. And that's been a big deal for me, whether, through trauma therapy and regular therapy, and just simply, again, figuring out who it is that I want to be and what it is that I want out of life, and recognizing that like, I can continually raise my bar, and that's okay. Like, I don't have to, there is no obligation, and there is no award for like consistently accepting less than I want or than I deserve. And
hallelujah.
Yep.
It is completely allowable, one, to change our minds, two, to come into a new space for ourselves where we recognize, oh wait, I've just sort of leveled up. I play a lot of video games, so like I'm now at like another point where like, fuck this, I want more. Now I want more, and I think one of the things that has been so clutch for like my
Tattoos.
Sort of growing
dagger.
my growing confidence has just been this sort of quiet recognition that like I I mean, not like no is a whole sentence thing. It's like I don't have to accept more or less than what I want to with anything, with
Well,
anything.
that's growth, right? We get to a point where we either are happy with the status quo, or if we're not, we're going to investigate to figure out what it is that we're not happy with, and then we're going to move on and we're going to evolve from that. I mean, expecting people to just stay in boxes is a huge problem. And I think, dovetailing it back to relationships, as we were talking about earlier, why should anyone be expected to stay the same? Really can't. Why should anybody be expected to stay in a relationship where they are the same person forever? I mean, I don't want that. This is exactly why my marriage ended in a ball of flames. But it had to end because he didn't want to go anywhere else, and I certainly didn't want to stay right there. And that's when I learned how to advocate for myself more and be who I wanted to be in every way. Because, as you know, I like to live a little bit big. But, here I was in this relationship, kind of like you. Oh, yeah, I'm going to race home to make dinner. Make your own goddamn dinner.
Right. Right. And then getting criticized for like not being this, I'm making up words, sound mommy-ish enough, like I love how mommy has become like the adjective, mommy-ish. Fuck that. Like I don't know how I became the person who put fucking China on my wedding, whatever the fuck you call those things where people buy you shit. Like I have boxes of China that I now want to take to a break room, like I tried to sell it. Nobody wants China. Nobody fucking wants China.
Watching you get China, I was like,
I know.
See that.
Everything I changed everything about me to like try. Look, I'll say that here too. So I tried it. I tried putting on that. I can't even say I put on those pants. I put on that dress. I tried putting on that like fucking what's
the pinafore?
Yes, with the pearls. And like, listen, I can rock a fucking pinup look, but this was not that. I tried that. I tried doing like the good little wife and I'm not saying I'm like anti-relationship. I'm just anti like being with somebody who wants me to like not be me. Like I'll never do that again. And I don't want to model that for my kids ever.
It's very disingenuous, and I can distinctly remember from my divorce, married to the firstborn son of a Greek immigrant. Somebody should have just stopped me. That should have been a t-shirt. Don't do it. But I remember just the compromises that I made. And I remember going, oh, well, I'll do this because it will elicit this response. I will get this in return. And then it was, oh, I'll do this because, and then all of a sudden it was just, that was the existence.
Right.
And all of the pieces of me that are me I got my tree. I have a huge tree on my back, and I got the first part of my tree while we were still living together, but had decided to get divorced, and I was on my way to move out. And I remember a statement that he made that was wrought with jealousy because he wouldn't get a tattoo. He wanted a tattoo, but he wouldn't get a tattoo. And it wasn't my first tattoo. I have 2 spiders. Those are my first tattoos. But this comes down my back just to above my butt. And it was taking a step back into Nicky.
Yeah.
And it's a thing because it's not often something that men have to do. And even if they are slackers and even if they are lacking, it is still not a step that they have to take or that they have to do. And when you step into that space and you are this person and you're like, no, I'm going to reclaim my time. I'm going to come back to me. I'm going to reclaim my time. They look at you like you freaking boiled their rabbit.
Right. Right. And that's what so much of
this
this
to do with them.
So much of this has been this sort of, I mean, and what's funny, a lot of it was the modeling, and the modeling helped me sort of come back into myself in a way that I didn't expect. But some of it was just going to law school, such a big thing that I wanted to do. So it was really both. It was really both that helped me kind of find my voice again and help me find that space. And then I found I kept like being having people come into my life with these different opinions and viewpoints on sex. And so like it was great. I really believe that like everything happens the way it's supposed to and like when it's supposed to. And so coming from a situation where I felt very repressed and I felt like I couldn't communicate clearly, and a lot of that wasn't just in the situation that I was in, it was also just sort of like bred into me over time, like from how I was parented and what I had gotten used to, just sort of this path, this pattern. And then all of a sudden my mind was being blown over and over again by like different people that I was being introduced to with like different types of like relationship boundary, how people like configured their relationships. And I was like, oh, that works for you? That sounds pretty amazing. And through all of that, I started to feel more open and confident in what I wanted. And then I'll take this back to like what we were saying before, like Misty had asked me about like communicating with the administrators, because so I had an OnlyFans at the beginning of the year and I shut it down at that time when the administration told me to shut it down, and because I was still trying to work on my marriage at the time, and he was absolutely 100%, you have to shut it down. So I did. I shut it down. I'm all for like, I'm all for communication. If like this is what we need to do to try to like work on something, then I'll do it. So that's what I did. And on top of which I felt shamed. I felt shamed, and I was sort of like in this sort of like space where I was allowing that to guide my decisions, and I hadn't quite unpacked that yet. So I figured I would just take a step back until I could figure that out. And then I went through this whole summer, and I have shoots like once or twice a week, every week, and that hasn't stopped. Thank God. Thank you, all of you, by the way, if you've clicked in here, for your support and for everything. That has been an amazing year. So then again, I had this conversation, and when the conversation happened, there was the one professor that was very supportive, and then the other professor who is like this self-proclaimed like feminist, and she does all of these things, and she's our bar rep something, and she was adamant that I had to shut down the OnlyFans. She actually suggested that I stop modeling altogether, and that was my line.
On
I
what
said, okay.
grounds?
Because she said that there were no models that had been bar admitted in Pennsylvania, and that when I go before the bar administration in Pennsylvania, they may not admit me. That was her concern.
Is that something different than you actually taking the exam and passing? You
Yes.
still have to actually be admitted into the. Okay.
Yeah. So and that's what I said. So there were the two women. So there was one who said, you may not get bar admitted. The other one said, if this is a fight you want to fight, we can fight it. So I shut down the OnlyFans. The line that I drew was I refused to stop modeling. And I kept working. I was like, fuck you guys. I will keep going to school. I'm not going to stop modeling, and I'm just going to sit on it for a while. The divorce got like kind of more settled. I worked all summer and then into the next school year, and then I ran out of money. And I was like, all right, so my positions on this are much less, why am I not doing this? Like I don't feel the same way. Hi, Mike, thanks. I don't feel the same way. I don't have the same sense of shame. I don't have the same boundary issues. I don't have that feeling that this is wrong. And I don't know. I feel like whoever led me to believe that, like, I don't have to live by their moral standards or codes, And so I started it back up. And so here we are, you know, and again, I'm like defining, and I like it. I like having the ability to kind of decide what I want to put out there, and plug for myself. You're welcome to go visit my spicy pages if you want to see what's there. Um, but you know, there's no fucking shame. You know, it took me a minute to figure out that that I don't have to assume somebody else's shame. You know?
That statement is golden, because I was just about to say that sounds like a whole bunch of people who were just throwing projection darts your way, from women who may not feel even remotely confident to do what you're doing, or
Exactly.
wonder how you're doing it and being equally successful, or you know, I that just sounded like a whole bunch of projection. And it sounded like a whole bunch of people who have decided that, you know, oh, she's way up here, we need to bring her down to a more tenable management level, so we've decided.
Right. And P.S., it's not 1996, first of all. I mean, there's been a lot of evolution, and we clearly have seen that that does not often stretch to the bar. When we look at a lot of cases and things that are happening across the country, I do think that let's repress the woman tenet.
It'll be a fight.
I mean, you're going to be, but you've always fought. Your whole existence has been a fight. I've known you since birth.
Well, here's the thing. All I could think about was what happens to the next girl? What happens to the next girl that wants to go to law school and attain a law degree and argue whatever she wants to argue, and she's a single mom and she needs to make income and she's beautiful and she's a model and she wants to have an OnlyFans? What happens when she comes through and she's told the same thing? Nobody else has ever done this before. When I had the opportunity to do it, I'll take on the fight. I don't care.
But do they even know that nobody else has done it? Have other people tried, like more than one or more than two? Is it just, you know, that one girl in 1976, you know, she actually did a Playboy spread, and, you know, it didn't go so great with her with the PA bar, so peace out. No, I mean, do we want real people showing up to become attorneys? Real people who've lived real lives and therefore can contribute to cases, to case law, to all of these things? Or do we want a bunch of people that are living their lives in boxes that have never seen real life and probably are doing all kinds of weird things, that if it was learned that they were doing these things, they might shrink away too? I think that projection that Nicky was talking about is that they either couldn't do it or they wanted to do it and somebody told them it was not accessible, and so they took their balls and went home.
But what about, so that's a conversation based solely on women. Are you trying to tell me that there's no white men at the Pennsylvania bar who don't have crazy hella just gross egregious proclivities?
Oh, please.
Or that don't have any sort of like, so if they want to, their whole past comes out for, I mean, we saw what happened with like the Supreme Court confirmation, but not everybody goes through that if you're just trying to be an attorney. So what happens if like you have anything in your past, anything? My point is, okay, so this is primarily, I mean, I know men who are on OnlyFans. I know men who, didn't that happen to a teacher who had an OF page?
It did.
It also happened to a nurse that I know of, maybe a firefighter. There are lots of people.
Your ability to fight a fire is impeded because you have an OnlyFans page?
I think only if your boobs are out when you're fighting the fire. Because that could be challenging, because getting those things singed if they're making you money is a bad idea.
Well, no, you have suspenders to cover the nipples. So
that's right. It's a very fit.
Now you're giving me outfit ideas, Nikki.
I mean, this is all still about the policing of women.
Of
this
course
is
it
all still about men can be on the beach or walk around all gross and sweaty with no shirts on, but it's
And
like
nipple
you
hair.
take your shirt off as a woman in the crowd and it's obscene. And I'm like, why is it obscene? Because that guy over there, his boobs are way bigger than mine, and I'm actually supposed to have boobs, but his boobs are bigger than mine, and he gets to walk around without his shirt, and you can call him man boob and you can joke around, but it's not an obscenity. Why are our bodies considered to be obscene? And it's such a weird thing for me too, because dancing, you're always backstage. All backstage crew, if you've been a professional concert dancer, they're all men.
Yep.
You know, there might be a lesbian in there somewhere, but she's butch, and so you can't really quite tell. Like, oh, in the dark, oh, that's a chick, okay. But they're all men. And you will at some point have a quick change where you are down to your skivvies to get that next costume on, and there is no place to go. People are going to look. Who cares? They're going to look. Oh, yeah, there's some boobs. There's some ass. Great. It's so tiring because I'm sitting here trying to figure out why this chick woman lawyer telling you not to. I don't understand why it wasn't just an inherent go, Jess.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
It's, I mean, and again, going back to what we were talking about with like sexual honesty and open communication and the ability to differentiate between what is comfortable and what is allowable, and how we can allow other people to have their space and what works for them, and be in our space and what works for us. You know, what works for me, I don't expect it to work for somebody else. I don't want it to work for somebody else unless they want to partner with me, and then we'll have that conversation. You know, I think it's that need. It's like some sort of weird need for people to like put other people into comforting boxes. It's like, you have to fit into this box, otherwise I'm super uncomfortable about it. You know, I think for some people who know me, I was just talking to somebody about this today. It's like one thing to know that, like, you know, nudity exists and nudity is available on the internet. It's another thing for it to be somebody that you know. And then all of a sudden it becomes super fucking uncomfortable. Oh my God, your boobs are like not covered on the internet. It's like, they're boobs. I'm not upset about it. I don't care who even, you know, it doesn't worry me. It doesn't, and it's not a boundary that I feel like is real. It's not a boundary that like I don't have to assume that discomfort. I don't have to assume that that feeling that this is wrong. And then when you take it a step further and want to actually talk about sexuality and what is comfortable and what isn't comfortable, whether it's you know, people operating in like the quiet and comfort of the dark on their own, like, or it's just having a conversation with another person about you know, these are my boundaries. Like, I have gotten to the point where if I'm going to engage with somebody and somebody wants to date me and we're talking things through, like, let's have a conversation about boundaries. Let's have a conversation about like what you like, what I like, what is it, what's okay, what's fun, what, you know, because, and I heard this on a TED Talk, and her name is escaping me, but she said one of the most brilliant things that that hit me, because it felt like something that I had experienced before sexually. And it was like, people want to pretend that sex is supposed to be clean, right? It's supposed to be this like clean, appropriate space, and like everything is supposed to, but it tends not to be like fun or enjoy it. Like lust and cleanliness, like, don't match. You know what I mean? So like, and like, that's fucking okay. Like, that's the thing. Like, we get into this place where it's like, oh, that's dirty. That's, you know, like, I want to hide now because I'm talking about something that seems too invasive or seems too,
it's too personal.
right. But like, when you're talking, We're discussing this like from the objective level about a conversation that should be happening between two people that are about to have sex. And when you're in that bubble, when you're about to like be physically intimate with somebody, like talking about the things that like we consider, why do we consider it dirty? Well, that make us feel good, should be like the most allowable thing. You know, why is that characterized as inappropriate? Why do we characterize that as inappropriate?
It's a fair question because, you know, if you went to a job interview, they're certainly not like, okay, here's the job, here's your paycheck, but, you know, we're not really going to define what it is you do. We're just have about it.
Just go do that.
Yeah, just run around willy-nilly, lots of luck. We don't do that. So why is it that interpersonally establishing boundaries is considered to be bossy or uncomfortable? You know, I would personally prefer to know, like, if we're going to be swinging from the walls, we should probably discuss it first. How do I know my walls can hold us?
Can you see that,
have a
Jess?
conversation.
What's that?
Harmony is asking.
Yeah, it wasn't Mel Robbins or Grace Wenzel. I think her name is Esther Perez.
That sounds right. I think I did hear that there.
Yeah, and she's brilliant.
It's also the thing that makes, it's also when we bring it back to kids, they are given all of these mixed messages about sex and intimate relationships, whether the intimate relationships are sexual or whether the intimate relationships are platonic, right? They're given all of this miscommunication, less than information at a time where they are literally like neon lights hormonally. And so it's like, this is bad, this is dirty, this is wrong, but their bodies are like, but is it? And then,
right.
And then if you're pounding that nail, right, this is bad, this is dirty, this is wrong. So then this huge thing that they're feeling and that's emanating literally from their pores and it's happening naturally, you're telling them that they're bad, dirty, and wrong.
Right. Yeah. I refuse to do that.
It's such a mixed, you know, and again, I don't know what they thought that I would say when they asked me about sex. And I was like, I don't want to be there when you have sex for the first time. Like it sounds really strange and funny to say, but it's like, that's not my thing. And I would be
okay with it. Not being there, obviously, but I would be okay with it if someone was like, hey, I had sex for the first time. Can we talk about it?
No, totally. But I, you know, the plotting and the planning, it's going to be awkward. It's most likely going to be bad. Because,
almost always.
Right. Because, you
know. Expect that. And that's okay.
But I want to say that, you know, I want to say, well, when you get to that point, don't watch like love stories on TV because it's not that. It's
not that. It's not porn. It's not any of those things.
You think you know where it is. You don't. It's going to take you a minute. And but I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that because it's just what it is.
Well, I think we have to say it. I think we have to say it because God knows if they're learning this from their ding-dong friends. You know, when I think I told you guys this, when I found porn on Harrison's phone. So when I found porn.
Is he still here? That's why we haven't seen Harrison walk across the screen.
Well, no, I mean, listen, like, this is what kids do.
Yeah.
This is what kids are going to do. And the fact is, you know, it's either, at least back in the day, boys had to, like, go and sneak into the convenience store. And then, you know, it was like this whole undercover transaction. Now it's just an undercover transaction. I just happened to have his phone in my hand. I sat down with Glenn and Harrison was on the other side of the kitchen and I opened it up. I was like, babe, look at what he's watching. And so we're watching it. This is probably not like one of my shining parenting moments, but it was kind of funny because we started talking about it in a way that he was like, first he was mortified, and then he's like, listen, I know none of that's real. I know that's all cameras and staging. And I mean, there must have been at least 3 cameras on her. And I'm thinking, as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking, this is the most bananas conversation I will have in my life. But it was very good for me to see in that context and hear him express exactly what it meant to him, which was nothing. And then I wasn't worried about porn anymore. I seriously was not. It was like, I don't have to worry about it, because you don't want your kid thinking like that's
those are
what
the
love looks like.
expectations.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and there is a group in this country, especially because this country as a whole is so ridiculously sexually repressed. There is a group of boys who go online and they literally become addicted to porn to the point where as teenagers they can't even perform.
Yeah.
And then the level of expectation they have from their female partners, whom they're not necessarily viewing as a partner, but as someone to simply reenact or enact these different scenarios with. And they literally become, they're basically being bred as sexual predators in a sense, because they are disassociating the emotion from the physical act.
But that's because nobody's having conversations with them.
Exactly. That's exactly my point.
That's 100. I mean, I'm agreeing with you. I mean, it doesn't happen if we talk to them.
3 camera angles. One is clearly overhead and who did her makeup?
But the boom operator was on point. Yes. This is my child. Yeah.
Are there credits to this? Did you get credits? No. Okay. No.
But again, using Nicky's scenario, and I think it's really, really important. So many people feel that they have the right of dominion over somebody else's body, over how they express themselves sexually, over, whatever it is. And that needs to go away. You think you've got a problem now, you've got to manage yourself and somebody else. Get yourself right first.
Yeah, I had this, I'm sorry, I like shed everywhere and there's like a piece of hair hanging. Sorry.
I just thought you lost a grape.
Squirrel.
I'm obsessed with these grapes. They're actually good for once. No, the sexual repression and sexual predator kind of thing, I think, go hand in hand. I mean, we see it all the time. People who aren't able to communicate openly, aren't able to have their needs met, and then ultimately end up kind of losing their shit and whether they're attacking someone or they're just unable to have some sort of healthy relationship, and they end up in these kind of fucking whack scenarios with other people. It's a mess, and I think it's so funny. It's like, as much as myself and other yes,
Pam and Tommy is an example. Yes.
As much as I have received backlash, or I've received kind of a negative response for being a mom and being on OnlyFans, it's like, listen, is it though? Is it wrong, or is it maybe real right? Is there something like real right about this? Like being able to be a person who has that level of honesty with myself, the ability to communicate with my kids, make sure they can communicate. I mean, I only got 2 of them, but I'd rather put 2 more humans out into the world that I know are like maneuvering comfortably within themselves and aren't going to hurt somebody else.
But that's not appreciated though, right? I mean, we live in a society right now where people are trying to pray away people's sexual existence and their personal identities. They're praying it away. They're legislating it away. They're doing all of these things that renders these people non-people. And
Right.
so while I agree, and I think that you're right, I stand behind it 100% and will do anything I can to support people being able to be who they are. I think we are really running uphill with this, especially right now. Politically, things are not going in the right direction. And, you know, I don't know how we change it.
Right. Well, I think the world needs more
Boobs.
I was going to say people like Jess. And the reason being is because you being on OnlyFans, it's people's assumption. People have decided that that is equal to you not being a good mom, or you having raucous sex parties in your house with tons of drugs. There's a whole scenario in their head behind it. And you may have raucous sex parties with tons
I was
of
gonna
drugs.
say that sounds kind of fun, but I'm like a social introvert, and I'd be
It would
good
be
for
the
like.
quietest sex party.
I'd be like, shh, shh.
Did
I
you
need
bring
y'all
your
to calm the
headset?
fuck down.
Did you bring your headset? Because you need to Bluetooth to that movie.
I need.
But
I will.
they are equating that. They have decided what those pictures, what those images are. They have equated that with something from their mind. Again, it's the projection. That's what
Well,
it
I
is
get
meaning
that
to
all the
them.
time. Anyway, I get people that and this is the best. God love all of you if you hear this part. But you know, I get people who love to like and I know any of my model friends out there can relate to this. You know, even beyond the people who know me, I have people who like will see my images, and then they find out I'm on OnlyFans, and they just flat out, you know, they assign a personality to me. They assign who the fuck they think I am, and I know this because they send me DMs, and then I don't respond, and they communicate with me as though like I'm this whole person, and I'm just baffled. I'm like, no idea what kind of fucking nerd I am on the inside. And that's really just all right, keep going. You know, and again, it's that whole I mean, we definitely live in a different era with like social media and you know, things being a lot more tangible and attainable than they ever were. You know, like I have many more people in my fucking up in my grill than like has ever been the case ever before. Love you all. Hello. But it's very disconcerting sometimes. You know, so I'm not gonna fucking please all of you. And like the bottom line is sometimes I post really fucking controversial shit, and like I don't really like people. I don't like people at all. I like taking pictures. Like I like being a model, but I don't really like people. Y'all can stay over there. You know, so like this whole like I'm not a party girl. I'm not a party girl. I'm not holding orgies because that requires it requires a party, and like
And you have to have
I'm like,
snacks.
no.
You're not baking anymore. You're
I'm
divorced.
not making snacks. Like I did that shit when I was a wife. I did all that like
It's over.
hosting
No
bullshit.
snacks,
And
damn it.
I think
yeah,
it's just that same thing where people feel like, well, you are this person because your image tells me that you are. And it becomes completely separate from the actual person that
right.
you are. And again, people feel entitled. People feel very entitled to assign you a caricature or a personality or a demeanor. They feel very entitled to do that. And they've got this, you know, Brene Brown, love Brene Brown, the story in their heads. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with what's actually going on. It has nothing to do with how you parent. It has nothing to do with how you live. It has nothing to do with anything but that moment in time, because this is what you've chosen to do as your profession and you're good at it.
And everything to do with boxes that keep people feeling comfortable, regardless of your comfort, which is why I think we're in this situation in the first place.
And I think for your children to have a mother who is so with it in terms of who you are, what you want for yourself. You're asking yourself the questions that you feel you need to ask yourself as it directly pertains to how you're raising your kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hear so much consciousness about how you're making choices. If you're saying, yes, this is who I am, this is who I want to be, but I am also responsible for these, you know, two fledgling people who aren't quite ready to be kicked out of the nest. That's not a compromise. That's just conscious thought. That's just saying, I need to be me, but not void of my kids. But I also want to inspire in my kids. No, it's brilliant, because there's nothing like a repressed housewife. And I live in suburbia, and that's all that there is here.
Right.
Can I address what Carrie said here? Because Carrie said, when I saw you, I thought, what a beautiful tattooed goddess that I would like to know more about. And that's the thing, right? I think when we look at something, we're automatically going to have a reaction. That's just who we are. But we have to ask ourselves why. If that reaction is negative, are we having a negative reaction because we're having a... Nicky must have fallen off.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Are we having a negative reaction because we're afraid? Are we having a negative reaction because we just don't understand what we're looking at? You know, there's all of these things that we need to be considering as to why we're having that reaction. And then we have to be adults about how we manage that reaction. If your reaction is to, you know, stomp back home and put on your handmaid's cloak and start doing dishes, then you know what? That is where you are. But that doesn't mean that Jessica should change anything that she's been doing all of her life.
Right.
I mean, that's just the way I feel about it anyway. Jeff, you know I love and adore you.
I love you too.
And I'm so proud of you. And listen, if we have to go shake some cages at the bar, I mean, I'll have an outfit.
I mean, so this is it. So I'm taking a break. You know, I'll be off school for like a year. Hi, you're back.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
You made it. It's okay. Aw, thanks, Dagger.
Oh my God. He's the sweetest.
Dagger, are you a knife person?
He's a tattoo artist.
Well, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I love it. I just didn't know if he was like daggers and tattoos.
He's a knife person too.
Collection. I get all excited.
He is a knife person, yet a gun person.
Well, nothing wrong
And a
with all
tattoo artist.
Nothing wrong with all that.
Very tall and very attractive.
Anyway, so I think Nicky is out again. Oh, well.
She
Well,
is.
we're going to have to wrap it up. But again, I'm just so proud of everything that you've done and everything that you're doing. And it's never easy being the pioneer. It is never easy being the one that takes that first step out there in front of the firing squad. But
Yeah.
you know, you're like you are full on Neo from the Matrix. Of course, I have to make a Matrix reference. But, you know, you're full on Neo. You got the whole thing. You're doing your bullet time. You're going to...
Yeah. The world doesn't change before timid women. So,
Nope.
you know, we got to do our thing.
Does not change. Nicky just texted and said she was kicked out, but that's okay because I got to be honest, I've got 4 more meetings, and if I don't eat something, I'm going to pass out.
All right, girl.
But love it. Love every bit of it. Thanks to all of your friends that came to watch today. And
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I'll be checking out a lot of them online because you know I'm going to get my tattoo. It's going to be right here. I still haven't figured it out yet, though, so I need somebody to give me some inspo.
All right. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.